Hi there, welcome to or welcome back to Tip Reads Books, where I read books and I talk to you about them. This is going to be November's week 2 of my what I have been reading. So I have not finished anything. Well, I guess I finished one thing, but I was nearly done with it when I did my last weekly check-in. So I have not been doing a lot. I have been doing a lot, but I haven't finished anything. The results on Wednesday morning definitely messed me up. Something awful. And my pacing has been off. I've been doom scrolling a lot. I'm really trying not to, but sometimes it's really hard to not. So I have actually made some pretty good progress with some things. So first off, I'll tell you what I finished last week. I did finish Among the Living by Tim Lebbon. I think I gave it like a 2. I think I might have rounded it up to a 2.5, but it was closer to a 2. It was a 1.67 on Compile when I rounded everything. So Compile is character, atmosphere, writing, plot, intrigue, logic, and enjoyment. There we go. We got there eventually. So I did one of those because I was like, I feel like maybe I'm being too hard on this book. By just being like, this feels like a 2.5, and then doing Compile, I was actually being nicer to it. And I think that's because I really liked the premise of it better. I talked about it a lot in last week's video, so if you want to see how I feel about it there. But the plot is essentially 2 groups of people. One group is they dig for rare minerals and sell the location data to people who will go and illegally mine it. They do all the recon. And the other group is an environmental activist group. I couldn't quite figure out what exactly they did for their activism, except for maybe write blogs and blow things up on occasion, which it actually puts them more in line with like eco-terrorists. So both groups of people were unlikable based on their moral standards from my perspective, but that wasn't really the problem. The problem was how one-dimensional the characters felt. And I didn't really understand a lot of the reviews of people that were like, I loved how real these characters felt. And they didn't feel real to me. I couldn't connect with them. There was like some personal tension between 2 of the characters who like used to be best friends and then haven't talked to each other in years. There's hairs sticking to my eyes, sorry. And now they're like, haven't talked to each other. One day, one of them, Dean, he decided to like send an email to Bethan, so Dean works with the mineral strippers and Bethan is one of the activists, and he decided to send an email to her and be like, this is the location we're at. So then she went to go like try to stop them, and that's when these ancient infected beings rose up from the ground. This was an unexpected fungus type of thing. I think it was we never really learned what it was. Fungus, bacteria, I don't know. The logic on what was fueling these people was not clear. This was heavily inspired by the zombie ant fungus, which is a really interesting fungus that goes in and takes over an ant's body, making the ant climb up to a specific point, and then it spores so that the spore can spread. So there are parasites that kind of do this. There's one that lives in stickleback fish. I think it lives in a lot of smaller fish, but I know it from stickleback. And it makes the fish go up to the surface of the water and lay with their side, which is big and wide, up against the surface so that the light reflects it, and then fish can eat it easier. And the parasite needs the birds. Did I say fish? So the birds can eat the fish easier because the parasite needs to finish out its life cycle inside a bird. So modifies the behavior. There are toxoplasmosis is a common one. It's the one that why pregnant women shouldn't clean cat litter boxes. Mice get infected with it, and it reduces their fear of cats and allows them to be consumed by cats, which allows I can't remember what toxoplasmosis is, but it's not a bacteria or a virus, but it allows it to reproduce and spread. So things do this in nature, but this book definitely talked a lot about the zombie ant fungus. So I don't know if they were trying to do a fungus in that one or not. It wasn't clear. It felt like a rough draft that needed to be fleshed out more. There wasn't a lot of meat to it, and the ending was extremely predictable, and I didn't feel the emotional payoff of the ending that I would have wanted to feel in a story like that. I do apologize if you hear clicky clack. Hugin keeps scratching his collar because today his stress response for me talking is to scratch, so he keeps scratching his collar, so you'll probably hear it jingling. I'm trying very hard to not act stressed because it stresses the dog out, but it's not happening very easy. So I did finish that. And then I decided to start Nick Medina's Indian Burial Ground. That was another one from this list that I had come up with. And I'm not sure how I'm feeling about it. I'm like 3 hours into it. And when I was about 2 hours in, I was like, I'm not really feeling this. And I had made the Rage book list, so which I did on my Saturday video. So I have a list of 36 books of rage, like feminine rage, and mostly from a lot of books from marginalized authors, not all of them, but a lot of books highlighting how marginalized folks have to deal with rage as well. So from that list, I decided to pick C.L. Clarke's The Unbroken, which was available on Libby with no wait. I have a few other ones on hold at the moment, but I started C.L. Clarke's The Unbroken. I'm 65% into it. At the speed I'm listening to it at, I think I have 2.5 hours left. I'll probably finish it later tonight because I'm gonna get off this, go do a bunch of chores, and listen to the video, or to the audio. Is following Touraine, which is heavily inspired by like French colonialism. She was kidnapped and essentially enslaved to the military by the ruling colonialists who came to her land, brutally took it over and kidnapped a bunch of the children to make them into their military. And then the ones that got left behind, in the colony, they're educating them in their way, and it's very reminiscent of things that have happened all throughout history. And we're in most of the time Touraine's perspective. We also follow Luca's perspective, and she's a princess of the occupation, and she wants to find a peaceful way to work forward between the rebellion, which is the people who are oppressed and have been colonized, and the colonization class. So she's trying to work with the rebellion. And Touraine ends up being accused of treason by, not really any fault of her own. She's accused for treason, and the Princess Luca ends up saving her and bringing her into her household as her now kind of personal bodyguard, though she has other motives to use Touraine to kind of help with this like peace modulation thing that she wants to do. It's messy. It is messy. Most of what we're dealing with is white saviorism and also colonialism. We're dealing with how Touraine has been indoctrinated to believe that these people are trying to help her, and that if she just does her best and fits in and submits, she'll be safe. And it's kind of her coming to the realization that that's not necessarily the case, and her having to like reconcile that she doesn't know her own family, let alone her past. And it's kind of painful in that way. It's definitely like ragey. It is like fighting tyranny. It's dealing with concepts of, like I said, colonialism and racism. Like, what am I trying to say? It kind of sits on that whole like white women are not exempt from being the problem type of thing. Like, right? Because yes, women have been historically marginalized, but white women have also historically been a part of the problem. So it's kind of highlighting that at the same point of it being like, fuck the system in a lot of ways. So it's interesting from that perspective. It's heavily sapphic. It's part of the sapphic trifecta, if you're familiar with that, which is the Jasmine Throne, the Unbroken, and She Who Became the Sun. Okay, so I started reading that when the Indian Burial Ground just wasn't doing it for me, and I think some of it is the narration. I don't understand the pacing, that it's double narration. There's two perspectives. I don't exactly know what the story is. I know in the beginning, this man gets hit by a car, and then the person who hits him sees like a coyote standing over his body, and it may or may not have eaten part of him. And then we kind of skip to two different perspectives. We get a perspective of, I can't remember either of their names at the moment because I haven't listened to it in a while, but Noemi and, is it Louis? I think it might be Louis. Louis is an older man. He is like got to be like pushing 60. And he left the reservation when Noemi was young, and that's his niece. He's just come back on the same day that Noemi learned about the death of that man in the beginning, who happened to be her boyfriend. And the police are kind of ruling it a suicide, that he jumped out in front of the car. But clearly there's something going on that Noemi doesn't think that it was suicide, because she doesn't believe that he could actually have wanted that. And Louis is unsure about what happened because of something that happened in the past, before he left the reservation. So we're getting like his backstory perspective, and then we're getting what's happening with Noemi currently. And I think the pacing of the story itself is throwing me off a little bit, and then the pacing that the male voice actor chose is kind of odd. And I've seen some reviews that said that they've liked his voice acting in the past, and they don't know why he chose to give it this rhythm, because it makes it's very monotone. And it's very monotone, and it's very like arrhythmic. Like it just is reading a series of words so that you can hear them. And it's very, I have to speed his up to like 2.75 or I can't follow it, because I just start looking around and dealing with other things and I don't pay attention. And then I have to slow her perspective way back down to like 1.8, 1.9, because she's talking way faster. And so I'm just struggling. So I think I may DNF it because the audio isn't working for me. And also the story itself, the pacing of it is kind of odd. And I feel like it might be something I need to read, but I want to get these like 2025 most anticipated horror off my list before the end of the year. And I don't want to add to my like books that I want to read off my shelves before the end of the year. So I'm like struggling in this, like, do I see if it's available that I can check it out through the library and then put something else off, or do I just say this isn't it right now? I don't know. A lot of people are saying it's not as good as Nick Medina's work, his like first work, which is Sisters of Lost Nation. A lot of people are saying that one's the better one. So and that this one didn't really like hold up to it. And also I think he has a work in Never Whistle at Night, and a lot of people said that one's better too. So I don't know, maybe it's the book, but I'm still deciding what I'm going to do with that. So that's audio. I've checked out way more audiobooks right now. I have Blood Over Brighthaven lined up. I'm excited for that one. So I need to get going on audio. So I probably will DNF Indian Burial Ground, just because the pacing isn't working for me right now, and I'm already struggling with focusing. So I think I just need to be like, it's not a DNF forever, it's a DNF for now. So let's talk about reading things. So, reading things with my eyeballs. I've been working on The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I had started it last week when I did this video, and I am not much further. I'm only 130 pages in. For some reason, I'm struggling with this. I like this. I love V.E. Schwab's writing. The story, the plot line is great. I think I just needed something more that like gripped and took me from the beginning, something a little more action-packed right now because of gestures and everything. So I was sitting on the couch trying to read this on Saturday, and my boyfriend came over and he was like, "Are you done with your book?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Oh." And so I showed him, and he was like, "That looks like where you were when you came down here 2 hours ago." And I was like, "It is. I read 5 pages." So he was like, "Maybe you should take a break and reread that book that you like really love," which he can never remember the name of it, but he knows I've read Gideon 3 times. And he knows that I talk about it all the time. So he's like, "Maybe you should reread that one." And I was like, well, you see, I have A Sorceress Comes to Call sitting over there on that table. And I've been thinking maybe I should just pick that one up because I really want to read it. And it's an author I know I really, really like. But I feel guilty. I feel like I should just finish this because I'm reading it for my best friend's like birthday month. She was like, "Read it with me." And she's gotten way farther. And so he walks over to the table and he comes back and he's like, "Just read this." So I took the dust jacket off to read, and I was going to put it back onto this video and I forgot, but this is A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. So he handed it to me on Saturday night, and I ended up reading like 60 pages. I was just really tired. And then I have now read, I'm at page 220, and definitely obsessed. This is definitely what I needed. I haven't wanted to put it down. I've been reading it a lot more, though very slowly for some reason. I've noticed it took me like 2 hours to get those 60 pages, which it shouldn't take that long because the pages aren't big and the font's not but I've been like devouring every word, like savoring it. So I think I'm just like, my body has just decided we're going to take our time with things. So let me tell you a little about these. This one is about a woman who, in order to not get married to a man she really did not want to marry, like she didn't want to marry at all. She wanted to just be her own person, and she thought that she had aged out of that, but then someone in her village, it's like 1714 France, and someone in her village, his wife passed away during childbirth, and so now he needs someone to raise his kids. So he picked Addie because she's the last woman under the age of 30, and so she's still of childbearing age, and she made a deal with something in the woods that she wouldn't have to marry him, and when she was done with her life, that something in the woods could have it. And that kind of made her immortal, but also invisible. As soon as like a door closes, or someone, like if they go to sleep or whatever, they forget who she is and why she's there, and that's made her life a struggle. So we're doing 2 timelines. We flash back to the 1700s, to when this all started, and get Addie's life as she's like moving forward. And then we have our current day in Washington DC. Why did I say that? Our current day in New York. And we have our current day, we have our current day in New York, where she's now been alive for like 300 years. She's like moving and grooving and getting shit done, and she knows exactly how to walk this life, but she's pretty lonely because nobody ever remembers her. And so we kind of walk through her rerunning into a couple of people that she's had very strong feelings for. And then around page 100, we start getting a new perspective of a man who maybe didn't forget her. So that's this. It's V.E. Schwab. It's beautiful. It's prosy. It's telling a good story. I have tabbed a bunch. It's hard to see because I picked these really light colored tabs. Same with A Sorceress Comes to Call, but so that's where I am with this one. This is dark, okay? This is T. Kingfisher mixing fantasy and horror again. It feels almost a little YA, but I think the story is it feels a little YA. But not in a like derogatory way. It just feels like it could be appropriate for teenagers to read, and Anyway, I think some of T. Kingfisher's works feel that way because at the same time as they're dark, they feel light and they have a whimsy about them, which is a very weird juxtaposition, which I think is why I really like her work, is it feels whimsical and dark at the same time, which kind of gives it that like grim fairy tale type feeling. Speaking of, this is a retelling of The Goose Girl, apparently. I think it's lightly based on it. My understanding of The Goose Girl comes from Stephen King's fairy tale, so I don't know The Goose Girl. So we're following Cordelia and Hester. We have 2 POVs in here. So we have Cordelia, who is a young girl whose mother is extremely abusive, and she's a sorceress. And she doesn't allow like Cordelia to close the doors. She doesn't allow her to have any privacy. And when she feels that Cordelia has embarrassed her or not listened to her, she makes her obedient. So she uses her powers to like to puppet Cordelia's body. So Cordelia experiences and exhibits a lot of behaviors of abuse. So if that's something that's hard for you, and there are moments where I'm like, I identify with that, but this is also like way harsher than some of the stuff I dealt with. But this could be kind of intense for some people. So Cordelia's mom, Evangeline, decides that she needs to marry somebody wealthy. Cordelia does, and Evangeline does, because Evangeline's benefactor has just decided he no longer wants her. So she takes Evangeline takes Cordelia to the squire and Hester. Hester is the squire's older sister. She's in her 50s, and she is a no-nonsense T. Kingfisher quintessential lady. And I love her. I love this for Hester and Hester's friends. So we eventually meet Hester's friends, and they're all trying to stop Evangeline from marrying the squire. And I mean, that's the best I can do without spoiling it. I am obsessed with this. Hester is I say she's no nonsense, but she doesn't put up with nonsense. She is whimsical. She can make jokes. She can laugh about things, but she's also very serious. and very determined to get things done. She also like takes her life very seriously and her freedoms that she does have very seriously. Her best friends are Penelope Green and Lady Imogene Strauss. And Imogene is a card shark, and she's like very astute and observant, and she's a planner and a plotter. And Penelope is just a ray of sunshine. She is beautiful because she is like beautiful, right? And the combination of these three like older women who are in their 50s who are like just everything I aspire to be, helping this little girl is just, I just love it. So I definitely, this is pulling me out. I'm going to finish this tonight for sure. I have 100 pages left and I can't wait. This is on my 10 before the end. And I'm super excited to get it done and to just be able to tick that box and feel accomplished, because I've only read 2 things this month, and one of them was a manga. And it's the 11th. So so that's what I've been reading. I thought I'd give you a really quick, I went to the bookstore today to get my friend a gift card for her birthday. And so I picked up a couple things while I was there. So I'll show you a few things I got. So the first thing I got was a hardback of Fool's Fate. So I'm going to replace my paperback up there with this hardback and keep looking for the other ones. This one's in really good condition. So this is the 3rd book in the Tawny Man trilogy. Of course, I can never find first books. It's always thirds. So this will be another 3rd book I found, but it's in really, really good condition. I believe, I was trying to find the publication date for you and I just got distracted. This is a 2004. So this is a 20-year-old book and it's actually in like really good condition. Usually when I pick these up, they're pretty yellowed here, but there's like nothing on this one. So I'm very excited about that. I love mass market paperbacks sometimes for thick boys like this, because it just makes me feel like smart to be carrying them around. And so I got Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. This is huge. I picked it up for $4.50, which is why I grabbed it. This is by Susanna Clark. I liked Piranesi. Incidentally, I had a ton of copies of Piranesi, but I was like, I don't really feel like I need a shelf trophy right now. So I picked up a mass market paperback. Because why the hell not? This is 1,006 pages of the tiniest font. So that's exciting. And then I picked up a nonfiction that I'm going to give a go to call them by their names. I did some research, their true names. I did some research while I was there. It's a collection of essays essentially that came out around, I think it came out around 2020. And a lot of them are dealing with the events of 2016. So it feels timely. And then for my friend who is reading books to her 2 kids, I picked this up at the thrift store for them last week. I think last like Thursday or Friday. It's called Endling the Last. And I guess this is the same person who wrote the Animorphs series. But this is a fantasy about anthropomorphic animals, and it sounded really cute. It says, we didn't want to believe our days were numbered, but here is what we did know. Once we'd been many, and now we were few. My parents feared I would be the first among us to die when trouble came, and trouble they knew was fast approaching. I was small and sometimes disappointing, but I knew I could be brave as well. I was not afraid to be the first to die. I just didn't want to be the last to live. I didn't want to be the endling. So, yeah, it has really good reviews, so I picked it up for them. Thanks for sitting with me and going through what I've read and listening to me ramble incoherently at times. I hope you got something out of it. Let me know if you read Indian Burial Ground and you think I should finish this. Let me know in the comments, because I'm really torn, because a lot of people in the reviews, when I'm struggling with a book, I'll look at the reviews and a lot of people DNF'd it. And a lot of people that did finish it gave it like a 3. So I'm like, is it just me? Is it just those reviews? I don't know. Let me know what you think.